Drew Barrymore was the first person, the first person he hired, the first actor he hired. The movie was Drew Barrymore, and she had the job as soon as he started talking to her. He's like, oh, this kid's incredible. So he hired her. And he said he didn't even know that she was from the Barrymore dynasty of actors. No idea. Of course, the second part of that equation is the reason she's able to get a meeting with you, Steven Spielberg, is because she's from the
I was wondering why this 5-year-old had a lunch with me and it was just me and her.
Drive his mashed potatoes. E.T. would like a Reese's Piece. This child robot's out here looking for love. 2 mice fell in a bucket of cream.
The Oasis is where we go gunting. Bingo, Dino, DNA. Indiana Jones and his Greaser's son find ancient aliens from outer space. So we made this change to our podcast, talking Spielberg until school reconvenes. We're ambling on bikes, our parents got a divorce. This is the temporary low-bearing beams.
Oh, yeah. This is the Load Bearing Beams podcast, and we welcome you to the Summer of Spielberg.
Ahoy!
Hey.
It's nautical for hi. You're welcome.
You know what it does to me when you speak nautical to me.
It sure is. Yar. That's right.
Yeah, so we're married. I'm Matt Stokes.
We're married. I'm Laci Roth.
Yeah, married to each other. And normally our podcast is a show where we talk about a movie that we love a lot that maybe we haven't seen in a long time and that the other one has not seen, or at least just doesn't have a strong relationship with it. We watch it. We talk about it.
We plead our case.
That's what we do.
To this foundational movie, the structure, load bearing.
And then,
our name of our podcast makes sense.
It does. It does.
Yay.
And each episode, we break it down. We predict what we're going to think ahead of time. We talk about the history of the making of the movie, give some context, and then go very thoroughly through the movie itself. We will continue to do that for the summer, but we're changing up the way we select movies for the summer. We're just talking about some of Steven Spielberg's movies. Strictly
Spielberg.
That's right. That's right. So we're starting off today with E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. In all the other ways, the podcast is going to be the same. We're going to have all the same segments that you love. It's going to be me and Laci. We're going to have some great guests coming in as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the movies. Those are the movies we're going to be talking about.
Right. They're just not necessarily load-bearing beams for either of us. But when we do have a guest, it is because we picked that guest based on knowing that the movie is a load-bearing beam. Now, this is not to say that we don't love these movies. It's just not exactly the formula because we both have seen and love the movies usually.
I love E.T., but
Typically.
it wasn't a movie. It wasn't one of my childhood movies, even though my brother is named after the character from this movie.
That would send me the other direction.
But yeah.
Not because of your brother, but just,
Just what, jealousy?
No, I don't know. Just don't tell me what to watch, Mom and Dad. Don't predestination me.
So the other thing is that if you keep up with us in our lives, we have a small child who has special needs, and as a result, we don't have as much childcare support during the summer, and we do this out of our own pocket and on our own time, and so we have less time to do it.
Right.
So we're doing 3 episodes, one every Friday. Then we take a week off, then 3 episodes, take a week off, then 3 episodes, take a week off.
Right. 9 Spielberg movies this summer in total.
And then we're back to our regularly scheduled programming and schedule.
Yeah.
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 New theme song, though, huh?
Right?
How
Those
about
vocals. That? You know why they're good? Because we're really talented friends.
Yes. Thank you to TJ Barron's, whose studio, Bear Sound Studio, is
That's why it's named that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right there in the name. And also just
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he engineered and mixed the thing and co-produced it. He co-produces Roll Route 9's music.
He makes it look so effortless. He's just a wizard with his hands and his movements of the wave files. And waves. They're literal waves on the screen. They're not wave files.
When he mixes, he doesn't use a mouse. He just uses the trackpad on the laptop, and it stresses me the hell out.
But we also have another friend that can use the shit out of a trackpad, and that's Jane Collada. God, can she use a trackpad?
That stresses me out too.
But she's good at it.
And then, and he's just good at the psychology of getting the performance out of you.
We have that on record of him pretending that my bad voice is good.
And then Wade Hemel, who's also in my band Roll Route 9. Look,
know Wade.
This song is credited to Roll Route 9 featuring Laci Roth. Laci does some guest vocals. Wade played the drums, plays the cool little lead guitar lick at the end of the song. And Laci did the guest vocals.
I'd say I did the best vocals.
The best vocals.
Whatever.
And then I was there too.
You wrote it. You arranged it. You are the master to my mind.
And
what?
Yeah. I did. And I played guitar and bass on the song because our bass player lives in Idaho. Is it good for your bass player to live on the other side of the country?
Makes it tricky. Makes it tricky.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you to TJ and Wade, TJ Barons and Wade Hemel.
Long time, all time Wade Hemel.
Yes, absolutely.
Long time.
If you have if you're a musician, if you need stuff mixed, reach out to these guys. If you're a content creator, we know lots of them. Original music is great, and you can reach out to these guys, and they can help you with that, including just making music for you.
Opening song to your podcast, and a catchy little something that's just yours.
Yeah,
these guys.
If you want me to put you in touch with them, just DM me, and I will do it.
There you go.
I guess
house cleaned.
God, look at it.
Just jump right in, I think.
Throw a dime on it. I guess, tell me this.
Okay.
Our dynamic on the show is sort of, I'm a bit of a movie snob and you're an everyman. You know what normal people know. You're very smart. You have incredible insights into movies. And I really love the way that you analyze movies and talk about them.
Well, thank you.
But it is very different from the way I do it.
Yes, very. Mine is all about feelings and vibes, and this one piece of art by itself, I hardly ever take into consideration the works of all that actor, of all that director, or of that genre in general. What's it doing, for that genre? I tend to just think of it as a separate thing in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. I have more and more insights in the way that you think about movies as we've done this podcast for years and years and years, but still, this is still not my criteria. My criteria is not the same as yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's not even criteria necessarily, but
sensibilities.
part of if I enjoy a movie and I know it's by a director I like, that just goes into the calculation. Isn't it interesting that this person made this and then also made that?
Yeah.
In the same way that if you like a band or a musical artist, you view sort of their career as a story, an ongoing story.
And I'd say Spielberg is one of those rare directors where I feel like I do know a bit more of his backstory, where even if I love other directors, which I do, I don't necessarily know anything about their lives. Mm-hmm. I just know what they've made.
Why is that? Because he puts it in his movies, or?
Well, it's because I'm married to you, and you've mentioned it over and over again. Different things that are things he revisits over and over again.
And I wouldn't say he's my favorite director. I mean,
I didn't say you did.
I know you did.
Oh, okay.
I'm just, it's not like I'm saying he's my favorite director or that I think he's the best director. I think he's one of my favorite directors and one of the best directors, but it's just a good subject for this mini series. And I feel like two most normie, non-super obsessive about movies. If you said name a movie director, they'd probably say Steven Spielberg or George Lucas.
This is a very accessible director for us to use, but you can still nerd the fuck out, as you will find when we do have Droopy Doobies movies on this podcast for the Close Encounters episode. Yep. That man can nerd.
That's gonna happen.
He makes nerding look cool.
Okay, you've told me sort of your sort of outside assessment of the man. What about E.T. in particular?
It's one of those movies that I know are a favorite of a lot of people in my age group. And I've certainly seen it enough to remember the beats, but it really truly must have been almost 3 decades since I'd seen it, or almost, yeah, because a ton of it I misremembered. But my guess was this movie maybe was a little too scary, a little too serious for me to have watched it a lot as a kid on my own, which would be how I consumed movies. I needed it to be palatable at the age, time range where I was going to be watching it, and I'd be watching it alone. Mm-hmm. I think either this, I had put it in my head, oh, this one's just boring, but also maybe scary. But what did you ask me?
Just what's your history with it? Did you see it? Did you like it? Do you feel positively about it? Whenever I've brought it up in our lives, you usually say ew or
I don't
boring.
say ew. I think it's one of those movies where I feel like I'm not getting something other people are getting. I acknowledge it's good and that it's special to people, but there was something that did not stick for me and did not become something I know as well as a lot of other people I really like. So to defend myself, I just go ew, like it was my choice.
Yeah,
when I guess it was, but I can't help what like hurts to watch or what feels good to watch. I don't really get to choose that.
And this was an enormous hit of huge family crowd pleasing movie that I certainly feel why people would feel that rapturous about seeing it and it feeling like a celebration, but it is kind of hard to watch it and be like, but why? Not that it's not great. I think it's great, but it's sad and it's scary and it's kind of bleak. And then it's life affirming in that like, oh, the power of love and the optimism of, I don't know, space. But I think one of the special things about this movie is that you can't really totally explain why it works so well other than all the obvious things that are just solidly done about it.
I mean, amazing act in the hands of other kid actors and a different mom, and even random NASA scientist man at the end. And it would be a different, less palpable, palatable movie. I'd say the kid acting is both what made this movie hard to watch and makes it work.
Yeah, because I do know what you mean. There was a movie that came out a few years ago, Armageddon Time, directed by James Gray.
That's what it's called? Armageddon Time.
Armageddon Time, yes. And the kid who's the lead of that movie, it's like based on the director's life growing up in the 80s. And this kid who's like a 12 or 13-year-old kid was so realistically played and was kind of obnoxious that I was like, I can't handle this movie. I need to turn it off. Not because it's bad, but because this is too much like spending time with a real kid.
And him actually walking me through a slice of his life. And I'm like,
yes.
I don't care anymore. I have to go do the dishes. Oh, yeah. Okay, I feel that.
So I had definitely seen this movie at least once when I was a kid. I have very vivid memories of the spacemen coming into the house and me freaking the fuck out when I was a kid.
I very much misremembered all of that, but had that vision too of the men in the suits and the facility. Go on, you go.
It's very vivid imagery, and everything in the movie is filmed from a kid's perspective, so it all just seems so much literally bigger. And then, this movie came out in 82. I was born in 87, but I guess my parents loved it because they named my younger brother Elliot after it. They said...
Right, that would have been decade after.
Yeah. His name comes from that movie. You get to a certain age, though, in 8 years, it's like, that's nothing. Think about 8 years. 8 years ago was 2016. You were pregnant.
It just sounds like a long fucking time ago to me. But I get what you're saying.
I guess. And my sister Maggie was named after The Simpsons.
But that's because you and Elliot named her.
It's my family. My family adopted my sister. I'm 16 years older than my sister, and we had like let's all put in our suggested names, and me and my brother both love The Simpsons, so we suggested Maggie Simpson. She'll be a baby like the Simpson baby, and that's what won. Okay. Then I'm 15 or 16. I'm getting into, classic movies as curated by the American Film Institute. So the most like generic capital C classic movies, Gone with the Wind. And on their list of the greatest films of all time at number 24 is E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. And I remember thinking, what? Really? So I watched it and I was like, I guess it's good. If they say it's good, it's good. It really didn't do anything for me, but I just assumed it was good. And then the next time I watched it was 2013. Okay.
God.
This time I had been a stepfather for a little while. I had a very close relationship with a small child. And when Elliot at the end of the movie is separating from his beloved alien, all I could see was me and my stepchild. And I cried and cried and cried. And it was like, oh, I get it. So since then, I've loved the movie.
Okay.
A couple years ago, I watched every Steven Spielberg movie in chronological order. And then the final tally, I have E.T. at number 6. Would you like to hear my top 10?
I don't think I have a choice, so do it, love.
Okay. And guys, this might change once we do this miniseries, but this is where we stand at the beginning. And I feel like this top 6, this is like I mean, everybody only has one masterpiece, but I feel like these top 6 are like, this could be the best movie in anybody else's career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, number 10, Bridge of Spies. Love Bridge of Spies. Number 9, Munich. Number 8, Jurassic Park. Number 7, Minority Report. Really, really held up when I watched it. Number 6, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Number 5, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Number 4, Schindler's List. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 2, this is the controversial one, AI Artificial Intelligence. One of the best movies ever made. And number 1, Jaws.
Okay, well, I have not seen AI artificial intelligence because you will not let me, but I guess for this series I will be doing that, and you might ruin me.
Yeah.
I also haven't seen Bridge of Spies.
Yes, you have.
Okay, I really liked it.
You did.
Okay, so there's that. Obviously, Catch Me If You Can would be a lot higher up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't have thorough thoughts. The Post, that would be way higher for me too.
But like
it's hard.
These are all so good. Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Color Purple would be up higher for me.
And like, I like Saving Private Ryan less than most people, but it's like, it's still a really good movie. So it's like, I have a lot of thoughts like that. Like,
right.
This movie's really good. I don't like it as much as everyone else. This movie's really good. I like it way more than everybody else. That kind of stuff. Okay. That's where we stand. And we'll go
Should you rename that list and say that that's your list before Summer of Spielberg? Then you can make another one.
Oh,
so
you're
people
right.
Can see
yes, good call.
Thank you.
Okay. Summer of Spielberg. We proceed now with our pre-movie predictions.
So I have found that I have load-bearing thoughts about movies sometimes, and I kind of know that they're not based on facts. I just decided to think this thing, and it makes me feel like I'm not an idiot for not loving a beloved movie, and E.T. falls into this category. I have a default thought that it is boring, but this doesn't make sense because of who the director is, the subject matter, the fact that people love it. So my guess is maybe it's sad, or maybe scary, or something made it something I did not want to watch over and over again by myself. And knowing now that it's about divorce, or Steven Spielberg's experience as being a lonely kid or whatever that was, that makes sense. I already would have gone through my parents' divorce, and I already knew what it was like to have a only partially functioning parent and then the other one to be gone. Even if that parent was doing the best they could, still felt really lonely or scary sometimes, that this is all I've got. So if it dealt with those kinds of themes, then it's no shock to me that I watched it one time, never watched it again, and then when people bring it up, I defensively say, boring! Like it's some hot take, but really it's just my feelings hurt real bad. So I'm sure I'll like it, but I have a strong suspicion I also will not have any desire to watch it again for the same reasons.
I was right in a way. I predicted heavy subject matter, and that's what we got. I'd say this seemed like a fully capable mom. I was expecting a little bit more like depressed, or like depressed, sure, but maybe just like, what is the word? Not having her priorities not being the kids as much as they would if she were in a different place mentally. But I'd say this mom just looks like busy. She has 3 kids, and she has a full-time job, and she's goes all extra for Halloween. Like she gets extra. She puts in the mom stuff. She's very not observant like you think someone might be. But then also, if all your kids are just in one of their rooms and they're having a great time all night long, that sounds fucking great as a parent. Like, maybe I'm not checking on that. Maybe they're fine.
See, I think you just nailed it. She's like, they're busy. They're not bothering me. I think Dee Wallace as the mother is great at. Yeah, I too had a memory of her being like a little less on top of all of her shit. I think that you just see it in her face that like she is trying her goddamn hardest, and she's pulled so many different directions.
Yep.
And is keeping it all together, but just barely.
And you can tell the way I really kind of solidified for me was the scene where she keeps running back and forth in Elliot's room to make sure he's sick, to see how sick he is. Like she's trying to just do her morning time routine, but obviously it's changed now because one of the kids is sick. So I was like, yeah, I see myself in this. Like, oh, you're fucking sick right now.
She's like, there's little hints of, she's a little whimsical.
Yeah.
She's like amused by her kids. Like rather than reprimanding Elliot for saying penis breath, she laughs. Spielberg says like she's kind of a kid herself. I don't know that I totally agree with him, but I do see what he's saying, but I don't think it's actually there so much in the movie.
Maybe in that time frame, that would have been how that was perceived. I think she just kind of reminds me of someone that is not a punishing parent, but a rewarding one. So, she disciplines with positive reinforcement rather than she's not a disciplinarian in the sense of like taking things away. But she clearly deeply cares because of her reaction when she finally does see E.T. and her reaction is, I have to give my kids away. Like, she doesn't wait and like the wonders of this creature. Tell me all about it. She's like, no, get all my kids away from the fucking thing. I don't understand.
Reasonable.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But early in the movie when Elliot says that he brings up that his dad's in Mexico and this clearly wounds the mom. And then the older brother says like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Don't you know you need to keep that to yourself? Like that says so much. Like clearly they're very aware of her emotional state and are working to kind of
mitigate that.
Yep.
And I felt that very much too. Yeah, and it's just much easier to blame one of your siblings on getting out of line rather than to be mad at your parent for needing that kind of handling,
right?
And for being so delicate.
Which was exactly my relationship with my brother is.
Yeah.
If he caused any trouble, it's like, you son of a bitch, don't you know how hard our parents have it? And not maybe it's not.
Don't you know how hard
my
we
target
have it?
is misassigned here?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Okay. Did you like the movie?
I liked it. I don't think I'd go out of my way to watch it again. It's prolonged. It does three things I can't take. Or I can take it. I've taken it. Look at me. I took it. But things are very much to like a kid not being believed. That went on longer than I thought it was going to. It's like 2 or 3 days where Elliot's not being believed. And he clearly is like a credible kid. He's not like a fantasy kid. He's the smart kid. So it's like, if you have no reason to not believe your kid. Anyway, but I don't mean that with the mom exactly. The whole family, the whole vibe is just, so that happens for too long. Then like Elliot gets a handle on things, I think. And God, I had no memory of E.T. being able to like, okay. Steven Spielberg describes it as Elliot being in a trance because of E.T. But then in the movie itself, it says, no, Elliot can just feel whatever E.T. is feeling. So if he's drunk, he's drunk. If he's happy, he's happy. Blah, blah, blah. So those parts were a little odd to me. I don't like a kid not being able to control his own body. And then the thing, the nail in the coffin is the futility of being a kid. Like clearly I have already established that I am the connection to this extraterrestrial. My older brother has already explained to you that I am the one who communicated. You've now hooked me up to a machine that proves to you that our brain links or whatever things they're measuring are in perfect harmony with each other, therefore proving this theory. And I am screaming at you to the top of my lungs that you're killing him. You are killing him. Leave him alone. Like, just let him get up and touch the eight. Like, what are you doing? They've spent days with him. He clearly can touch him and not die. And you believed him enough to do all this, but now you're going straight into your like human medicine mode, like you're helping. And the thing you could do is just listen to the kid. It hurts to watch. And then you end it all with him saying goodbye. And the goodbye was easier than I thought it'd be. It was mainly the hospital lab scenes that were just watching a kid that age be really sick and near death and then screaming for his friend and can't do the thing he wants to do. Like not being able to hug your mom or dad or somebody as they're dying because you're keeping everybody safe. But then that moment's gone and then you can't get it back and that person died anyway. It just pisses me off.
But none of those, to be clear, you're not saying those things make the movie a bad movie.
No, they all make it good.
To make it good, they just make it hard for you to watch and engage with.
Right. And this is one of those, like, it's not a criteria thing, but you and me definitely approach movies differently in that lots of people watch movies to feel something. And I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm an empath. I feel all things all the time. So when I go to watch a movie, often I'm looking for a break. And if I'm watching something because I know it's good and it's hard, I have to get into that mental space. And E.T. kind of markets itself and kind of has this like this lasting effect of like, ooh, yay, childhood. And I feel like it's missing that dark edge to it when people talk about it. So I feel like it's mismarketed and misremembered, and it's not easy.
I think it's appropriately marketed. It's just you feel it way more acutely than other people do. I think other people are like, oh yeah, you do feel like that when you're a kid, don't you?
And I feel like I'm constantly advocating for kids to get listened to. Still to this day, I still need parents to do better at thinking of their kids as small people and not as idiots who won't remember what you're doing. And yeah, when a movie so well captures the helplessness of being a kid and having something you need to share with adults, it's hard to watch.
The this book that I'm going to quote from Spielberg, The First 10 Years by Laurent Bouzereau. The author of the book talks about how he observed Spielberg directing the kids on the set of E.T. And there's a lot of really great footage of him directing the kids that you can watch, and you can see how he relates to them and interacts with them and directs them. And this author says he doesn't do the worst thing you can do to a child actor is talk down to them. He talks to them as if they're real people. He knows how to relate to them and knows how to connect with them. And that's how he's able to get these really naturalistic performances out of them.
And I don't even have to see it, but I want to know that he's on his knee. Like he's down.
He's always getting down to eye level.
It's like, I mean, and I understand that not every person has an able body and can do this, but like the biggest thing you can do throughout your kid's entire life, and when you're interacting with other kids, not in a creepy way, but if you've got something you need to communicate to them, get on their level. Mm-hmm. And not in a shitty way, but just in a natural way. Like, hey, I'm coming to you. Mm-hmm. Not in a, hi, little boo. You know, just...
You can watch him do it, and it is like if you don't, if you wanted to show somebody what movie directors do, they do a ton of things, but this is one thing they do. It's just constantly on the set talking to them. Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing in this scene. And even while their camera's rolling, still talking to them. And he would like do E.T.'s inner monologue for Henry Thomas to respond to. And I'm sure that's a big reason why they were able to get this naturalistic performance that is so draining for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm never for a minute taken out and thinking, oh, that's an actor, because it's so well done. Yeah. So it's tricky because like if you listen to this review, you're going to think I don't like this movie. It's like I'm saying no, it's really good, and that's why I can't watch it anymore.
Yeah. No, I that's a good way to put it. All right, here's my prediction. Listen up, penis breaths. All of you with your penis breath. You know who you are. I have this to say about E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. I most recently watched it 2 years ago when I did my Spielberg rewatch. I have it at number 6 on my Spielberg rankings, which might seem too low, but I mean, it's one of the very best of his movies and like just one of the great American family films. And I think it's great and I love it. And Laci is weirdly resistant to this movie, and I cannot predict how she will view it. I mean, I am hoping that us just sitting down and watching and focusing on the movie, she will be won over by its power, but I don't know if she will be, and I don't know if will my opinion change at all as a result. You know, I think if it was one of his bests, but of like that top tier Spielberg, I have it on the lower end of the top. I have it lower upper Spielberg. So what I'm saying is I predict that I will continue to have the high esteem. And honestly, I don't think Laci's going to like it that much.
Well, and you know what, this is a good point of like, you also thought it was a weird adverse reaction I have to it, because it's not like I explained it or anything. I think in the future you should push back, because you weren't wrong. I wasn't wrong. It was not a warranted feeling that I had. It was just an aversion to it, not because it wasn't good, but I was blaming the movie. No, boring. Anyway,
and I could tell once we started it, like that you were into it, like just on a scene by scene, like this is very entertaining. This is funny. This is charming.
And the puppet.
The puppet's
He's
really
so
good.
sweet.
He is.
Even when he gets all ashy, but it's rough at the end there. But God, Drew Barrymore too. Jesus. So fucking good.
These kids are good.
I truly liked every single character.
Yeah.
And even the older, it would be so easy to be more of a shit as the older brother, or to be more of like a one-liner guy. But like, he loves Elliot just right. Like, give him the business, but then like, when he's serious, and then you can kind of bring it down. Mm-hmm. And then even like I've always liked the scene with the friends for some reason in the beginning. I just like how real it all looks.
I know. To people who we didn't live through the early 80s, but like
smoking in the house, sort of
the decor, that weird kitchen table with its like sofa.
Right. So like with the like cushions, like a diner, like little, yeah.
The way everybody's talking over each other,
reaching for snacks.
And I'll tell you this, I think good, well-observed dynamics between an older brother and his friends and the younger brother, where like they treat him like he's their peer who they dislike. Like,
right.
They're not like, oh, come on, that's just my brother. He's 5 years younger than us or whatever. They're still like, who do you think you are, you son of a bitch?
Right. Because you've got to have someone to hate on in the group. And when the little brother comes in, it's like, all right, none of us have to be the person.
Yeah.
Well, but they're not too mean. They don't go out of line. They don't go past what Mike would say about his own brother, because there is love there for his brother. He's not a bad brother to him.
Yeah, it feels like this is actually a group of people who know each other. Yeah. And I did a couple of times when it's just the friends after that, and they just have like they have one lines to say, and I'm like, that almost got a little too cheesy for me. But then when I realized, okay, no, they're not saying random, weird, too smart and too stupid at the same time insults. They are saying things that relate to the game they were all playing in the beginning of the. Mm-hmm. They are Dungeons and Dragons insulting each other. Yeah. It just, when you don't know the lingo, it sounds fucking crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, even this part's all right. But it's also, I mean, hey, this is the most obvious point in the world. Stranger Things comes 97% from
down to the fucking stuff. Headphones and the hat and the poofy jack. Yeah. Oh yeah.
The part where I was thinking, okay, this is getting a little too much kid powery, is when the other kids on the bikes pull like their hats and stuff on and their hoods on. But then I realized a few minutes later, that's because they need the stunt people to be riding the bikes. So they need to disguise their faces.
It's like 1 second later, because like the first thing the kids does is, I'm like, how could he go uphill like that?
Yeah.
Why is there dunes all of a sudden?
Yeah, they're getting some sick air on these ramps.
It's a cool like scene. I mean, what do you call it? Not a scene. The whole stretch.
Sequence?
Yeah. It is a cool sequence, but it's all of a sudden these kids have powers. This is like, we have no way to assume this kind of athleticism, but fine.
Yeah, they're D&D nerds and also amazing BMX bikers. Okay, we're going to cover the history of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, and we're going to start off by briefly going over Steven Spielberg in a little career overview. The man.
Thank you for loving me.
Oh, again, because you have the image of Linda Belcher when she says, "All right," that's what I think it is every time.
Damn it. Okay.
Sorry, soundboard mishap.
Steven Spielberg was born in 1946. He's 5'8". And as a kid, he lived in Cincinnati and then New Jersey and then Phoenix. We are going to cover The Fabelmans later this summer.
Army brat? Like, why?
Nope.
Okay.
We are going to cover The Fabelmans, and we'll talk more about sort of his childhood, because that movie is very much just a biography of his life. But E.T., which was made in 1982 and which Spielberg calls his most personal film, it was basically the culmination of this ridiculous miracle run he had to open up his career. So we'll talk about that stretch. He got his start working on television at age 23, working on a show called Night Gallery starring Joan Crawford. And Joan Crawford was very impressed with him and was sort of a supporter of his and helped boost him at the start of his career. He worked in TV. He was writing and directing on shows like Columbo, and Universal signed him to a 4-picture deal to make television movies for them. starting with a movie called Duel. And Duel is usually considered his first movie because even though it's a TV movie, it was very successful. It's critically well received, and the studio loved it so much they had him shoot additional scenes so that they could release it theatrically overseas. As such, I included it in my Spielberg movie rankings. And Duel, if you haven't, go see Duel. Duel is great. It's like Jaws but with a truck. And then he makes his first feature film, The Sugarland Express, starring Goldie Hawn and William Atherton. This was where he meets John Williams, who does almost all of the music for his movies and some of the most iconic movie themes ever, like Indiana Jones and Jaws and Jurassic Park and E.T.
Hook. All of them sound... Hook does have an... Get out of my face. Whatever.
Are we going to be doing Hook this summer?
Fuck no.
Hook was our very second episode of the show.
Our very second.
Hook was the second episode of our show. And during that episode, Laci said, I'm bored talking about this. Okay, Sugarland Express, critically well received, but it was not a big hit. He moves on to his next movie, Jaws, and it was a famously difficult production.
Never heard of it.
But it was an unprecedented hit, the highest grossing movie ever made up to that point. Set off the modern era of blockbuster movies.
Hey, Matt, the J in Jaws is a hook.
Whoa.
Like for fishing.
And like the movie.
Did you notice that?
Never noticed it.
Then why'd you say the movie?
Like the movie Hook.
Oh, okay. All right. But also, what's the most upsetting part of this poster to you, if there are any? The Jaws poster.
What, the naked woman?
No one would be upset by that.
Okay.
I'll answer it. Too many rows of teeth. Look at the teeth. Look at the fucking... Well,
No.
I mean, I get it. That's a shark thing. But look at just on the left side, the 3 rows.
But it's not rows. They just have teeth coming in behind their...
Can you make the photo go away?
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm sick to my stomach. It's a tryptophobia, I guess, situation.
Okay. After Jaws, the world is his oyster, and he follows that up with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another smash hit. He got his first Oscar nomination for Best Director for it. We covered this movie on the show on episode 42, and we will be recovering it this summer with our friend Drew.
I remember liking it.
I re-listened to the episode. You said it's good, but I don't like it, basically.
I just remember I love Richard Dreyfuss. Maybe I'm wrong.
Richard Dreyfuss just did a bunch of homophobic and transphobic
Damn it.
I know. And it's the first words of our theme song. We don't like the man.
We just like the mashed potatoes.
We just like the potatoes and the Jaws. Okay, after that, Spielberg began producing and executive producing movies for other filmmakers, starting with Robert Zemeckis on his debut movie, I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then Robert Zemeckis and his partner, Bob Gale, wrote Spielberg's next movie, 1941. This was a comedy. Spielberg was nervous to do a comedy.
For World War II
Yeah.
comedy.
And he should have been, because I hate this movie. It sucks.
People asked us to do this movie, though, when they found out it was Summer of Spielberg. Was it people who liked the movie or who just think it'd be an interesting conversation?
I definitely heard from one of our friends who said he really liked it. Now, I've only seen this movie once. I think that Spielberg is not good at comedy, and like a comedy that's not well done can be really awkward.
True, it is. However, you would have watched all these in
Order.
and it's sandwiched between 2 of your very favorites. So yeah I mean, but yeah.
Then that did happen. Is like, do I consider this his worst movie when he has so many bad ones to come?
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I just know it's like his sense of comic energy for such an anarchic movie. He just didn't have the handle on it at all.
That's interesting because I think of Raiders as a comedy. I know it's adventure first, but comedy, it's almost tied to for me. But maybe that's just because I remember Harrison Ford as funny no matter what.
No, it's
adventure.
It has funny moments, but it's not. I mean, it's a comedy like Star Wars is a comedy.
I don't know. It's the smirk on Indy's face. He always seems like he's about to tell you something sarcastic or like fuck with you or whatever, and then do something cool.
But 1941 is like, if you put it into a video store shelf, you'd put it in comedy. And does he have any other movies that are that?
You're
like maybe The Terminal with Tom Hanks at the airport.
The Terminal's a comedy?
I mean, it's like a romantic sort of like, ooh, whimsical. Victor Navorsky's talking in that accent.
Okay.
That Coke stuff.
I don't feel informed enough to help you with this.
Should we watch The Terminal?
Yeah.
And then he rebounds by working with George Lucas on Raiders of the Lost Ark, another smash all-time smash. It's insane to do.
He needed to get a little bit of fucking humility. Can you imagine if he didn't have the down slope of 1941? I mean, you can't just have hit after hit, or you win. I don't know what kind of. You're not fun to work with anymore, probably.
Yeah, and like it was still a commercial hit. Like it did well. It's just people didn't like it. But like,
interesting.
He doesn't have a real flop until Amistad, maybe. But like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom made a little bit less money than Raiders, and people thought it wasn't as good as Raiders, and I think that to him was like a devastating rebuke.
Or they thought maybe he did it. I'm sorry. I'm very much dyslexic today. Did they think he did it cynically? Help me.
Cynically?
Yes, like a money grab situation. Because I thought that one was really good.
No, I think that they thought it was too dark, too weird, too much of a.
He does go a little weird.
Just swing and a miss. It is very weird. But it's just like in this stretch, the first 20 years of his career or whatever, if the low points are Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and like, I don't know.
1941.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you're doing okay.
Doing all right.
Okay. So E.T., the origins of E.T. And again, we're leaning on this book that I mentioned, Spielberg, The First 10 Years. This guy, Laurent Bouzereau, directs a lot of Steven Spielberg material for like special features on his DVDs. So this is kind of like an authorized source, and it feels like you're reading a DVD special feature, but it still has some good interviews with him. And Spielberg said this, quote, E.T. sort of came about in stages for me, including toying with the idea of the alien from Close Encounters staying behind on Earth, while Roy, the character played by Richard Dreyfuss, goes off in space as some kind of foreign exchange between Earthlings and extraterrestrials. But I really couldn't find a way to justify this, and it was frustrating not being able to realize that concept. Maybe that was really the reason why I eventually made E.T. And then he went on to say, I was feeling a little bit separated from myself, which often happens when while he was directing Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was filmed in Tunisia in Northern Africa, he said, quote, I was feeling a little bit separated from myself, which often happens when you're directing. You can go into a kind of fugue state to make a movie. And I was in one of my fugue states when suddenly, bang, this concept hit me. I knew exactly how to tell the story of E.T., and it began to flood into my mind. For the next couple of days during the shooting of Raiders, E.T. pretty much had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I had the opening. I had what happened at the end. I knew E.T. would have to go home. I knew E.T. would come into the life of a little boy who didn't have a father, who needed friendship, affection, the paternal guidance he wasn't getting from his mom, and that he would make friends with the alien. I had some of what happened in the middle of the movie, the government chasing the little boy and his new best friend, how he would somehow help the creature back to his ship at the end, end quote. So this is the tale he tells about how E.T. happened, that he'd been living with this idea for a long time. Like, he even said, like, when he was a kid, he was experiencing his parents' divorce. One way he coped is just sort of imagining this sort of wish where he would meet an alien and it would be his best friend. And he thought, I needed to turn that into a movie, and it just lived in his head for 20 years. But finally he figures out the way to tell the story. And then on set during the production of Raiders was Harrison's girlfriend and future wife, Melissa Matheson, who was a screenwriter, and she had just written the movie The Black Stallion, a horse movie. And Spielberg really liked that movie, and he approached her and asked her if she'd be interested in writing his alien movie. And she said she didn't want to write sci-fi, and she was actually feeling pretty down on herself as a writer. But he pressed her, and eventually she did. She wrote a script in 8 weeks. And Spielberg said, quote, it was inspired work on Melissa's part, and it was ready to shoot the day I read the script, end quote. Casting the kids. All the kids, he says, are a combination of himself and the members of his family. He said, quote, E.T. was really about the divorce of my parents. At the time when I did the press junket and met the reporters, I never said this was about the divorce of my parents, end quote. And he says this in the 2002 DVD of E.T., he says that basically for 10 years, he didn't tell anybody that this movie was inspired by the real life divorce of his parents. But then he finally came out and said it. And it was like, oh, big shock.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
That the divorce of your parents was a big deal to you.
Especially if it happened when you were 10. That is such a, I mean, I was 5.5 and still have vivid memories of it. But 10, you're way online in your head. I mean, you're collecting all those fucking memories.
Yeah.
I at least got to filter some of them out.
and you're like relating more to your parents as people and feeling like I need to help them if they're sad.
Yeah.
And ugh.
What? He has brothers and sisters?
He has sisters.
Older or younger?
He's the oldest brother of sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting because he puts this on the middle kid in this movie, but being the oldest sibling of a family that is the struggles to keep the roles very clear. Being the oldest, I mean, the biggest burden is I can only say because I'm the oldest and you're the oldest, and that's my experience. But yeah, big burden on the shoulders.
Wait till you see The Fabelmans. You haven't seen it and you don't know what happens.
I do not.
How the divorce goes. It's insane because like he says how he learned about the divorce. He told a story in public that was different from the way it happened, and The Fabelmans shows what really happened. And it's like, oh my God.
Okay.
Excited for you to see that.
Great.
It's not like it's
fine.
It's not going to traumatize you or whatever.
Okay.
It's just interesting. Okay, he said Drew Barrymore was the first person, the first person he hired, the first actor he hired in the movie was Drew Barrymore, and she had the job as soon as he started talking to her. He said she started telling him that she's in a punk rock band that's about to tour the world. And he's like, oh, this kid's incredible. So he hired her. And he said he didn't even know that she was from the Barrymore dynasty of actors. No idea. Of course, the second part of that equation is the reason she's able to get a meeting with you, Steven Spielberg, is because she's from the
I was wondering why this 5-year-old had a lunch with me and it was just me and her.
Imagine that. And he could not find the right kid for Elliot. He said they were 5 weeks away from starting production and he'd met so many little actors and just couldn't find the right one. But then when...
half of them were named Corey. You know it.
Oh my God.
It had to be.
When they finally got Henry Thomas, he came in, they did a little improv exercise with him, and this was caught on film. So let's just watch it.
Now, young man, I understand that you have an alien somewhere in this house. Is that true?
And Mike Fenton, the casting director, played the government man.
Well, is it true?
Can't take him.
Well, I'm afraid I have to, son.
Can't take him away, he's mine!
But it's not my choice. The president asked me to come here and get him.
I don't care what the president says, he's my best friend! And you can't take him away!
And I got the part. It was the fastest auditioning process I've ever been on.
Okay, kid, you got the job.
So yeah.
It just seems like child abuse to make a kid cry like
It is
that.
a weird as hell thing to do.
It is so weird. I mean, I hope he had a good childhood, but the more stuff comes out and more documentaries are made, and the more I learn about what it's like to be a child actor, and it all feels so wrong. But what do you do?
No, yeah. And it's like, well,
You
are
need
the
kids.
kids actually choosing to do the acting?
Tell me about
But
Barrymore. Barrymore seemed impossibly bright and smart and funny and knowledgeable and like put together. Like it just, that is what is so mesmerizing about her is you're watching an adult with a tiny person voice and face in a sense. And then as soon as you said that, I forgot that she's
she had personal troubles and stuff that she came out of.
yeah, no. But I forgot that she's a Nepo baby. And I was like, of course, she's been trained since she was like, is this something she even wants to fucking do? Yeah, she's good at it, but fuck.
And Henry Thomas is still a very successful actor, still see him in a billion things. And I think he's a very good adult actor.
Yeah.
And unlike other like kids who make the transition into adults, like I don't see Elliot when I see him as an adult. I don't know if he ever had any struggle, but yeah, our kid is in theater right now. And
that's 100% their choice. They've always dabbled, did like a week here, like 1 week per year when they're little, and then they decide if they want to do the longer stretch of a month, and then if they do, they do, and it's always their favorite time of the year. So,
but of course, that
such
is
a natural,
super different from doing the movie business where you're.
And it's super different if this experience got it into our kids' head that they wanted to be an actor or be on Broadway or something, and so like, well, then I will. I'll do this year round. That would be the first step. And then I'll go to college for it. And there was nothing faster to get me to stop thinking I was going to be famous than to put me in fucking drama classes in college. I was like, nope.
Did you thought
this.
you wanted to be an actor?
Yeah. I thought I was going to be on Saturday Night Live. I mean, like I just felt made for it, except for insane stage fright to the point of vomiting. So I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought, oh, okay, well, I'll go to school for it. And then that'll give me credibility. And I'm sure everyone's this nervous. No, they're not. No, they're not.
But you perform on camera now.
Yeah, but it's all off the cuff. If and there's no way for anyone to anticipate what it is I'm going to do. But if you tell somebody I'm going to go sing a song that they know, or I'm going to dance with other people who know a dance, that is different. Then they exactly know what I'm supposed to do, and then I fucking freeze. That's why, like, if you and me were going to do a song together in front of people, I would have to insist that it were you. And then, like, literally 1 second and I'd be in the back. Now we're both, because I have to approach it like that. When we start it just cold, I'm standing next to you and I'm going to fucking sing. I want to die. Even when it's just in your living room of your parents, it's just, I want to die.
The Row Route 9 song that you are a guest vocalist on, we've never performed it live, but I hope to do it one day. However, your part doesn't come in till 2 minutes into the song.
Yeah, but I'd have to get out of the audience and get up on stage.
Pull you off stage.
I couldn't.
Like
Oh,
Courtney
I love
Cox.
that. Yes, I couldn't start on stage. No, I'd be like, oh, I couldn't. But nothing to mashed potatoes. I know that's not the song, and that's your part of this song. Okay.
Go check out the Bible Towers of Bluebonnet, everybody.
Give it a shot.
All right, Robert McNaughton plays Michael, and I think he's great as well. These are three really good little child performances. The puppet. How did they make this puppet? Well, there is artist Ed Verreau sketched the ET designs. Then Carlo Rambaldi designed the model. He had previously designed the aliens in Close Encounters. You can see a definite continuity between the aliens. And then the producer on the movie, Kathleen Kennedy, hired artist Beverly Hoffman of the Jules Stein Institute to paint E.T.'s eyes because
those are the most important part.
She said that's going to be everything. The key to everything is the eyes.
Yep. I wrote that down. Where did I write that? Oh, in my review on Letterboxd.
Load-bearing Laci. There was a team of 12 puppeteers who operated E.T. the puppet remotely via remote control. They each operate a different component of him. At times, there were actors in the ET costume if you needed to walk around. So there were two little person actors, Pat Billon and Tamara Detroux, who worked in the suit at different times. And then there was a child actor named Matthew Demerit who was born without legs. He walked on his hands. He did it at different times too. In the scene where E.T. gets drunk and falls over, that's him. And you can tell he's walking with his hands, and it's hilarious. It's great. And there's really charming footage of this kid behind the scenes moving around the set and stuff. And then a mime named Caprice Roth performed the hands. Spielberg said he wanted E.T.'s hands to have balletic movement.
They really, they're a lot. The hands are very important. It would have been easy to make them look like little penises, but luckily they don't. They just look like dildos.
Drew Barrymore says in the special, in the 2002 20th anniversary special, said like E.T. to her was real. She like intellectually understood that there are people operating him, but also he's real and I'm really interacting with him. And the puppeteers were like behind a wall and the kids are just interacting with this little machine puppet thing. And she pointed out like if they made him with CGI today, you would never get this.
Right.
And I think that when we complain about CGI, we're usually talking about what it looks like and the fact that it looks disembodied, that there's not real light hitting it, and it just looks artificial.
Sure.
But the other component is when it's actual actors interacting with a physical object, you believe it more because they believe it in a way that they can't if they're acting against a tennis ball or against nothing.
Or against the human that is that creature in the dumbest outfit, as is the case with Twilight and Jacob.
And you can be a great actor and still it's like, no, but
you're in a bodysuit with balls strapped all over you.
Taylor Lautner with balls on him. This movie was a phenomenon. It was number one at the box office for 16 total weeks. In 1983, it surpassed Star Wars to become the highest grossing film of all time. In its initial run, it made $360 million domestic, $619 worldwide. The studios would kill for those numbers today, unadjusted for inflation, as the movie industry collapses rapidly around us. And it was a merchandising phenomenon. Hershey's profits rose 65% because they own Reese's Pieces. And they initially wanted M&M's, but M&M wouldn't give up the license because they thought E.T. would be a scary movie. So they went with the upstart Reese's. I always knew that story, but I forgot that Reese's Pieces was owned by Hershey. So
Yeah, it's like, way to go. Oh, shit.
Oh, the little engine that
Oh, you already could. Okay.
When Jaws was surpassed by Star Wars as the biggest movie ever, Steven Spielberg took out an ad showing R2-D2 with a fishing pole catching the shark from Jaws, saying, "Congratulations, George." When E.T. passed up Star Wars,
Aww.
George did the same thing.
Oh, I love that.
Took out a very charming ad with all the Star Wars characters holding up E.T. like he won. Yay.
It gave me goosebumps.
Oh, Steven.
I just love camaraderie, and like this is maybe is a stupid comparison, but like joining Film Talk, it's not like, oh, I'm going to jump on there and be an influencer and people are just going to flock to listen to me. No, you end up meeting other creators and a lot of other podcasters and everything. And like you come in at around the same time and you kind of feel like you're coming up together and you both start to figure stuff out. But it's just such a nice thing to think of. Like, I can feel happy for people who I know are doing the same work and want the same things, and it happens at different times for different people, and maybe it never happens, but that the connections you're making are with real people who have similar goals. Can't we all just celebrate each other as long as the other person's not winning too much?
And with these guys, they're literally going back and forth.
Right.
So I have always wondered, like, they seem like actual friends. It's gone on forever, but are they really, or is it just for show? Everything I've read suggests it's real. They really are really great friends. They obviously work together on 4 Indiana Jones movies, among other things.
That's true. Some of this is joint success.
Yeah, and George Lucas's company, ILM, is doing effects for Spielberg movies, so he is invested in the success. Right. But that's also, that generation of directors, they all came up together and took over Hollywood from the old guard. All right, one last little thing. Speaking of Spielberg and Lucas, in 2002, Steven Spielberg pulled a George Lucas and made some digital changes to E.T. Shot some digitally enhanced effects, including adding a cape to Elliot as he flies on the bicycle so that it would match the Amblin logo and the poster of E.T. And in the most notorious example was he replaced the guns that the federal agents have with walkie-talkies, and people made endless fun of this. But
they still seem dangerous to me.
It is surprising when these agents just have a giant gun. Like, they're going to shoot these kids out of the sky.
But they were being reckless with them the whole time. The way they were driving around kids on bikes, like they could have killed one. It could have hurt seriously a child the entire time. So these random guns don't seem anymore. It doesn't help. If that's the vibe, it doesn't help. You still seem reckless with children.
I think the government as threat, as sort of uncaring, monolithic threat is great in this movie. Even though they have the one agent you get to know is like a good guy and is sympathetic, it is still like, yeah, they'll just come in and run over you and not mean it. It's just part of their job. Today we got to go get that alien. Okay, Spielberg, to his credit though, went back and said he had made a mistake. So in 2011, he gave an interview and he said, quote, "At this point right now, I think letting movies exist in the era with all the flaws and all the flourishes is a wonderful way to mark time and mark history." And then the interview says, "I wish you could talk to George into doing the same thing." And Spielberg says, "Well, I can't. George goes his own way and I respect him for it. But my new philosophy on this is to let sleeping dogs lie. When people ask me which E.T. they should look at, I always tell them to look at the original 1982 E.T. If you notice, when we put out E.T., he's talking about in 2002 when they did the special edition with the walkie-talkies, he said, we put out 2 ETs. We put out the digitally enhanced version with the additional scenes, and for no extra money in the same package, we put out the original 82 version. I always tell people to go back to the 82 version," end quote. But today, the only version you can access is the theatrical cut with the guns and without the cape. Okay, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Let's talk about the movie. Okay, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, the movie discussion. It begins with the greatest movie logo. It's a studio logo. that there is in all of the movies, which is the old Universal logo and MCA company.
It makes me excited to see it. Never thought of it as being the best, but now that I see it, I do want a shirt.
Well, every time I see it, I just get a like, oh, right.
Feelings.
Oh, I'm in good hands.
Casting couch.
E.T. is like...
Great politics of these white men serving us this delicious.
I'm talking about the corporation, the disembodied corporation that exists outside of people, unless it comes to like politics, in which case it's a person who has political rights.
Oh.
Yeah. E.T. might be the universal property, at least if it's not, I think it might have been overtaken by Jurassic Park, but like E.T. was the sort of the mascot for Universal Studios and the...
we went on the ride. We went on the bike ride.
The E.T. ride is still at Universal Studios somehow. Steven Spielberg very, very woodenly introduces the ride. Hi, I'm Steven Spielberg. 18 is
You may know me from such classics as E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial.
And then you have to go help E.T.'s Professor Botanicus.
How do you remember?
Save the green place. It's from Podcast The Ride. They talk about it all. They're obsessed with the lore of very strange lore of E.T. the Ride and his teacher Botanicus.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
The movie E.T. But these are alien botanists. I always forget that we see inside their ship for a second. Looks kind of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory-esque, but
there's a lot of moments in this movie that they're not totally clear. I don't totally understand them. I feel like I need to watch the movie a bunch of times to understand. I did not know this was inside their ship. Mm-hmm. Looks like it's inside of a garage.
What is a ship but a garage?
True. And the little like gnome Christmas lights down there that glow. That's interesting, though. He's from a people who go to different planets and collect different organisms to bring back and study, I suppose. But, like, why so callous? Why they leave you behind, E.T.?
Because they're scared. And I think from this we get that he is, like, especially, like, wistful and curious because he sees the giant trees and he goes out further than he should to look for them.
He's Mark Wahlberg. Like, it's your curiosity that got you on this ship, Mark Wahlberg. But
From Planet of the Apes?
Yes, but it's also what got you in that pod without thinking, going through an electrical store and landing on the Planet of the Apes and then back in the pod. Your brain is always out there. Makes you good at what you do, but bad at what you do.
He's always thinking with his dick, but his dick is his green thumb.
End scene.
He's looking at these big trees, he's admiring them, and then the government agents swarm, and then the ship takes off without E.T.
I thought maybe this was just a band of janitors or men who run properties. Maintenance men.
They could be.
They're all it's just Dick Heighton down, and they all have so many keys.
Yeah, we'll find out this is just Forestry Service or whoever.
What are they unlocking? How many doors are there in the forest?
So there's only one guy with the keys.
I have a theory about the keys.
Okay.
Because it's the perspective of kids and we're supposed to feel the limitations of being a child, we have to come up with solutions that a child can come up with, like faking sick, like hiding stuff in your closet, that kind of thing. That when I was growing up and I would go to daycare, or just in general, I was always fascinated with my mom having this big ring of keys. It was a big ring and she'd wear it on her hand and it made a very specific noise when she'd walk into daycare. I could be 2 rooms away and I'd be like, Mom's here. You know, you're so excited for that initial, like, I'm free, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Those keys just to me signaled like adulthood. She opened things. She drove things. So I just think that it's very clever to use that as a significance for like power in a movie that's from the perspective of a kid. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's obvious.
And at the height at which a kid could see it.
Well, right. That's why I know that that's what it's about. It's not a joke on him. It's this guy's got power because jingle jangle.
And so that you can always identify him. And in the credits, he's just the character Peter Coyote. He's credited as Keys. That's his. That's his name is Keys.
They don't make it totally clear. It's not a lot of men with keys, but you know, because there's several men running around. And
well, yes, I agree. And the only adult face you see in the movie is the mother until the government comes into their house. No, you don't see the teacher. You only see the teacher.
Oh, wow.
Just assume it. Yeah, face down or whatever. But so I think you think this is a little confusing. I think it's a little. It has to get out a lot about what these aliens are, what their nature is, that they're not threatening, they're curious, and they have this sort of like empathetic connection to all of life and to each other, and that's why they're going to get the plants and the animals and
Okay, I didn't get that.
And E.T.
but
starts to get sick when he gets far away from his people because they all need each other.
that is sweet.
So, and then, but right away, E.T. abandoned. Elliot feels abandoned by his dad. They are connected thematically and emotionally even before they meet each other.
And both curious, right? Because when you see Elliot's room, it's full of just projects he's in the middle of. It's
You're
not
right.
a total play. There's no toys in sight. There's not a lot of playful anything. It's only toys in the connecting closet, which are all Gertie's.
That's not true. He has a lot of action figures.
Yeah, but you can tell he's the kind of kid that's into the collecting of them. I mean, he does show how you can play with them, but he seems to be into like exploring ideas.
Yeah,
He's not like
he plays with them like in ways he sees the kids on commercials do it just so that he's like,
maybe
this is their function. I know they fight, but really I'm just interested in owning them.
Yeah, he's a collector.
We meet the Taylor family, and Elliot wants to play this game with them. Now, an important correction. Earlier in the episode, we said this is Dungeons and Dragons. It is not Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
It is Tunnels and Trolls. And I went down an internet tunnel trying to find out more about this.
You didn't troll anyone though.
No, I would
Good,
never.
good.
There's a lot of, it's mostly just message board posts because there's lots of people saying they couldn't, like with M&Ms, they couldn't get the license to Dungeons and Dragons, so they got Tunnels and Trolls. And then some people said, no, it was Dungeons and Dragons in the theatrical cut, but on home video, it was Tunnels and Trolls or something.
So there is no Tunnels and Trolls?
There is a Tunnels and Trolls.
What I liked about it was that it looked like a more simplified version of it with like a true game board.
According to Wikipedia, Tunnels and Trolls, which came out in 1975, was intended to be a more accessible alternative to D&D.
Well, and also you can wrap it up. It's not an ongoing thing. You don't have to have the same group of people every time to like keep building out on the game, but it's just like we can do the same fun stuff, use the same mechanisms, but the game is done when we're done.
Yeah. And they say game master and not dungeon master. But
okay.
We'll just note that for the record, don't come at us, bros.
Is this the first instance of a house by a cornfield where the cornfield does not play some spooky area for a scene to happen?
There is a scene though. Elliot goes into the field to look for E.T.
So short.
It is short, but that's
the outside of Elliot's house is so much more about the forest and about the biking in the neighborhood, and it's on the outskirts of this very modern town. I just feel like the cornfield is good for surrounding it and why E.T. ends up there because he's on the outskirts. I don't know.
Well, like M. Night Shyamalan clearly took inspiration from this for Signs. And we, on our Signs episode, I can't remember the number, but we did it in October. We talked about how it was a very Amblin feeling movie with its beams of light and its shots of the cornfield, and you can't see something, but you know it's out there.
With that freaking stained glass window that we both commented on, and it's in the closet. That stained glass window in the closet of this movie.
Is there one in this movie?
Yeah, it's really prominent, and you can see it from the outside. And once you know it's in there, you realize where their closet is from the outside too. It's right facing the backyard. It's a really pretty window.
Yeah.
It's very unique to have such a decorative touch in a closet.
Yeah, not an ideal place for it. But
I don't know.
It's on
I
the
like
outside. It's on the outside too. You can see from the outside.
It's the middle of the house, so it makes sense on the outside.
So yeah, Elliot wants to play Tunnels and Trolls, but they're like, "Oh, come on, Pukwad, get us a pizza."
And the guy's on the phone the whole time, and it never made sense to question it when I was younger, but now I'm like, what is he? He's on the radio talk, like he's on some sort of like talk. He's trying to request something, I think.
Oh.
I think you remember how you'd say on like Q93 or like any local radio show waiting to request your song just to hear your voice on the radio for like a second.
I never tried that.
Oh God, it was hours. Okay. But he's doing that or some kind of party line. I guess he could just be talking to a friend, but he seems to be like doing some sort of business on this phone.
But everybody's like doing their own thing. There's a lot of overlapping. The audio mix makes it so that you can't totally tell what's happening. Spielberg does this in his early movies, and it was just a thing to do in the 70s.
It looks like the opening theme song stuff to Roseanne.
Oh.
It's them just fussing over like a very this era table and hands are everywhere and there's just chaos and it totally reminds me of that.
So they say you can join the game after you go out and get the pizza. So Elliot goes out and meets the guy for the pizza. I always get pizza anxiety in movies when people don't order enough pizza. This is like 6 teenage boys
Four.
gonna share one little pizza. Plus, Elliot's going to need some pizza. You got to give some pizza to the mom. She's got to wet her beak a little.
No, she wasn't even supposed to know the pizza was there. That was why Elliot went outside to get it, so the guy didn't ring the doorbell.
But she's going to find out, and you're going to have
and
a
don't
wetter
say
beak.
wet your beak.
So he goes out,
disgusting.
but he hears a ruckus in the shed, and he goes to investigate, throws the ball. The ball comes back to him. This is shot very well. So simple and suggests so much, and it's a little spooky, and he drops the pizza and runs over it. That's the second part of the pizza tragedy. That pizza's salvageable, though. They could get that pizza.
It is. The third part of the pizza tragedy is just pick up the box. You at least need to bring it inside for the mom's fucking sake.
It's still good. Get a butter knife, scrape that from the top. You're good.
Okay.
You're good. So all the shitty boys run outside because he's like, there's a goblin outside. And to make fun of him, to roast his ass, they go look for the goblin. And I noticed this my second time watching it this week. One of the friends takes it upon himself to just grab a giant butcher knife.
You didn't notice that? Yeah.
Well, but that's a good detail about it. These kids, if the mom was a more like effective authority figure, you'd never do that at your friend's house.
Well, she does say, put that knife away or whatever.
But they don't.
They don't listen.
But just to know, I can go grab a knife without asking permission.
Well, and like we're the ruckus boys. Oh, we got something to go bash on outside and be nuisances. We do that at this house.
Were you not terrified of your friend's parents and just like walking on tiptoes and like, oh, thank you, ma'am?
No.
No?
My friends' parents always loved me.
So,
No, I was funny. They liked me.
So the next day, Elliot goes into the forest to look for the creature. He leaves Reese's Pieces everywhere. And I like that the movie doesn't tell you why he decides I'm going to leave Reese's Pieces.
I think it's obvious, but all right.
What is it obvious? What's obvious?
He's leaving a trail of Reese's Pieces.
Yes, I know, but I think a shittier movie would be like, because
right. I'm going to plot the yeah, they leave it unspoken, but it you know why.
But specifically Reese's Pieces is a little weird.
He just has a big old bag of them. I really relate to this because it's the one thing I bought at Sam's because I did not have a membership, but I went with a friend and I'm like, well, I've got $5. I'm at Sam's. I'm going to buy this. This is my favorite candy, Reese's Pieces. It was so fucking big. I made myself sick on it. I haven't eaten them since. And I was, like his age. And I could not get rid of them. And I would like make baggies of them as Christmas presents. And then like I had them for a year.
You have to move these things. But I'm just saying in a shittier screenplay, they would have him say like, oh, I think you'll like Reese's Pieces because
Something.
of whatever. But
Right.
no, he just does it and you accept it and you go with it.
Sure.
So he leaves a trail out in the forest and then they're eating dinner and it's a sad family dinner where Elliot reveals to his mom that his father's in Mexico with Sally.
Yeah. I mean, but he says dad would believe me. And this kind of hurts her. And she says, well, why don't you call him? And they're just kind of like, I don't know that he totally knows it's going to hurt, but he feels not believed. And so he's feeling a little like he wants to hurt back. Well, dad would believe me. Well, why don't you call him? I would be with Sally. And I think that line is not to hurt her. He just knew something she didn't. And then I think she does a pretty good job of like keeping her shit together. I mean, it could have been worse. She knows she's about to cry. So she gets up and walks to like do dishes or whatever. And I don't remember why Mike checks on her. Like, I don't know why we see her crying.
He's the one who's more in tune.
No,
with...
I know that. But I don't remember what makes her. If she went to hide it, I don't remember what inspires her to show it. Like, I was crying over there.
I don't know if she shows it to them or if we just see it because we see her and she says he hates Mexico.
No, that's what triggers Mike into saying, you fuck. That's how he knows that she's upset. Is she says he hates Mexico to them.
We also meet Gertie. We get to spend a little time with Gertie. Drew
Gertie.
Barrymore. Very, very cute little kid here. But, you said it really hurts you that they don't believe him. But, like, they shouldn't believe him.
I get you, but, like, they didn't set up or make any remarks as to him having any kind of whimsical stuff. He seems like a very practical, scientific-based kid. Doesn't seem like, Goblin is a weird place to go.
So, like, how do you handle this?
Yeah.
You just say, like,
I don't know.
You must have seen something. Wow. I wonder what it is.
I have no fucking idea. Yeah. But if my kid never did stuff like this and like was seriously shaken and went outside to sleep and to look for it, I would fucking camp out there too.
Yeah. If your kid is sleeping outside, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
But this mom might not even know that he's doing it.
Or they at least don't make any effort to explain that, like, oh, he's always kind of going on quests and ever since dad left, they're weird. And maybe this is just a new behavior. Like was feeling really ignored by all the older boys. They're not letting him play. So he goes outside and comes up with some reason to be important too. I don't know. It's hard, man, when you're going through a divorce. When I did, my kid was 10 months old. So I didn't have to. Of course, I blamed things on having two houses later. But it's hard not to default there with like explaining a behavior because you've done something wrong rather than, no, this is just something going on with the kid. And what does it matter? We need to fucking figure it out. So, all right. Now, okay. A couple days has gone by and finally the Reese Pieces work. And on the second night, Elliot is sleeping outside. That is when E.T. approaches and he lures him inside with the Reese Pieces and then puts a blanket on him, and which is adorable. And they have an interaction. It's kind of loud. I can't imagine being a mom and not going in to see what the fuck happened. But they immediately have a connection, and he immediately hides him in the closet. And and this is when you can tell that Elliot I thought E.T. was putting a trance on Elliot because E.T. just needed like some calm, and that's how he made him sleepy. It was clear that E.T. made him sleepy. But I now understand, no, E.T. is exhausted. And so now Elliot's feeling his tiredness too, and they both go to sleep.
Yes.
But E.T. just like instinctively knows that he needs to go sleep in the closet. Like he needs to hide, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, because no one puts him in there. And then,
because the next time we see Elliot, he's
faking sick.
So who knows where E.T. woke up?
That's true. Because it has not been
toilet.
Like this is a human that I've met. I've already met one that scares me with the keys, or was chasing me. Now I've met this one that lured me. I mean, unless it's just like he instantly knows it's a height thing. It's like, okay, anyone closer to my height, trust. Anyone taller, keys. So he just kind of already knows what to do.
Well, and he has that empathic connection with him already.
So you think it's going both ways, Elliot to him? Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's immediately why he trusts him and why E.T.'s immediately in his house and feels protected. Okay. Because that's just this alien. I think that's this alien race. They just bond with. It's why E.T. bonds with the plants and the deer and stuff.
Okay. See the sunlight? That's big and.
I see it now. Yes.
And even this shot,
flower.
This exact shot, I think is in Signs. All of them leaning in like this, looking at something.
Is it the TV in the closet?
Maybe, but this looks so familiar.
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is just like standard Spielberg posing.
Yeah.
And there's so much Spielberg face in this movie of people.
What's Spielberg face?
Oh, that's when people look off into the middle distance
and wonder.
Take off their sunglasses or put on their sunglasses or take off their hat.
Slowly drop the coffee cup and it spills. I do like that when the mom does drop the coffee cup, it's not like, and it drops. It's just realistic. Like she slowly lowers it and it pours everywhere. Yeah. All right. Okay. So Elliot has had a full fake sick day with E.T. Like he's feeding him a lot. I don't know that they establish very much of like, how are we going to get through this? What's the plan here? What are we doing? But he makes him a little home in the closet and he realizes on day 2 that he needs to, let the other siblings know that he's here.
Well, and he spends the day sort of just bonding with him. First, he's showing him all the stuff in his room and he's just talking. And E.T. is like very politely listening.
Yeah. The kid's boring me to death. Yeah.
I think you said during the movie, like, this is wish fulfillment for kids. Somebody around to just listen to my boring shit as he explains all his action figures. This is Lando Calrissian.
Neat. And I think there's just enough pushback from the older brother, Mike, in terms of like, believing him, waiting for the reveal, and then accepting what he's seeing, and then a little too much screaming from Gertie because if I'm cued into what my kids' stress signals and noises are, and I know that the brothers like to torture the sister sometimes, as soon as I hear that squeal, I'm up the fucking stairs. But fine, it's a movie. Her scream is adorable. So they all 3 now are in it. They all are immediately attached to E.T.
Who wouldn't be?
I don't know. It's the fucking eyes, man.
They try to get him to tell him, where are you from? Here, look, this is the globe. We're here on Earth. We're in California.
God, yeah. Whenever any movie deals with like teaching a language or like a basis for starting a conversation and understanding each other. Like, is it Arrival? Mm-hmm. I'm just like, how do you even begin this? But I don't know. I think this movie actually does a pretty good job at like referencing where we are, and I don't know. And then the way he figures out that he wants to phone home, and I don't know.
Well, our experience of having a kid who is speech delayed, or who's nonverbal, taught me that like you're still able to communicate with each other, even if you never say words to each other. You're still able to, and it's not like we don't. And he says words too, but
right.
You realize that communication is way more than just saying words and even understanding each other's.
And words are not the same as intelligence. Like the amount that he's taking in without being able to put it out is near equal to anyone else, as long as he is able to like focus on the thing. And so comprehension.
He does his little floating trick with these balls to, I guess, show the solar system. I
guess.
Right there, I'm from that star system. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll get working on
random clay ball. Look at this fucking kid.
The next day, Elliot has to go back to school, and E.T. is left home to wander around the house. So he drinks some beer and gets drunk, and Elliot at school starts getting drunk and a little amorous.
When he turns to the girl. The girl looks shockingly like Drew Barrymore's character. So like it took me a couple before I'm like, that's not his sister, right? That's I mean, not when they're in the classroom, then I understand. She's a tall girl. But I mean, they really went for someone that looked just did she fucking audition for Gertie? He's like, I got a part for you.
Maybe she did.
You're way too tall, but you're gonna get a smooch.
The class is dissecting giant frogs. Is this something 10-year-olds actually have to do in the world?
I didn't know they have to actually kill them.
You have to kill them.
We dissected fetal pigs.
Oh.
No, we dissected cats.
We dissected, I think we did dissect frogs, but I was much older and they were already dead. It wasn't, here's some giant, beautiful frogs. Now, please do put chloroform in there with them and wait for them to die in agony.
Right. No, these were cats. They were it's a normal thing apparently to dissect, but they were like, they were stillbirth cats. That's what it is.
You got to find yourself a stillborn cat dealer.
Upset. They don't have fur or anything. It was just like these little. I know.
Yeah, so they're dissecting the frogs, and E.T.
Well, no, they don't ever get around to that.
Well, they're supposed to be,
right.
But E.T. he can sense them, and he loves the plants and the animals. Boy, does he! And so he objects, and then Elliot objects. He's like, "No, I gotta save all the frogs." He lets the frogs out, and then the other kids in the class are like, "Hey, Elliot's doing something fun," so they all let their frogs out too.
Like 2 people do. The rest of them are like, "I can't believe he's doing this."
And suddenly, there's a billion frogs in the class, and I bet there's this. Spielberg was talking about on Raiders of the Lost Ark, the scene where Indy goes into the tomb and there's snakes. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, our snake guy asked how many snakes we wanted. I was like, I don't know, 2,000. And then we get 2,000 snakes and I realized, oh, that's not a lot.
Oh, fuck.
So it's just like, yeah, that sounds like a big number, but it's just kind of 2,000 snakes is just a little. So they had to get like way more snakes. And this time they're probably like, okay, there's 20 kids in the class, 20 frogs, but 20 frogs doesn't look like a lot of frogs.
It looks like a lot to me.
Yeah. So I'm saying there's probably like 200 frogs in this shot. And then E.T. is back at home watching The Quiet Man, where John Wayne kisses Maureen O'Hara. So Elliot kisses this girl. And because he has to match the blocking of The Quiet Man, and he's much shorter than this girl, he has to step on another kid to do it.
This is the wildest part of the movie. It's just like, what? This is out of a different movie.
It's charming.
It's cute.
And E.T. finds a little typing game thing, and he seems to be formulating his plan for how to contact his people. And Mary, the mother, arrives back home with Gertie, and Gertie is trying to show her mom E.T., even though she was sworn to secrecy. She doesn't care. She's going to show her mom, but her mom's distracted.
This is a good job of showing you the hierarchy of listening to a person. Like, Mike is going to get the most response from the mom. Elliot will get middle, and Gertie's got no fucking hope. Mm-hmm. Gertie does not have a soul or personality or anything. Like, Gertie's just talking away and explaining that there's an alien in the house, and she's just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, the mom could not. It's just funny.
Well, if you've ever been around a 5-year-old, you know they talk a lot and you don't actually have to listen.
We've been doing it wrong.
Gertie sees on TV is like a Sesame Street or something that's doing like up here's for Banjo, and she goes over and starts watching. And I did think, Gertie's probably a little too old to be watching whatever this show is.
But all kids like what they know.
But I've noticed in real kids, even with our kid who's almost 14 years old, when our younger kid is watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or something, the older kid will like kind of sneak a watch and be like, this bullshit. Who's for babies, isn't it? And then just stare entranced at it.
That's how I was with Power Rangers.
Yeah, that's how I was with Barney. And yeah, there's...
You fucking nerd.
No, okay. I'm not. There is some weird, like, I still want to watch the stuff that I'm supposed to have outgrown.
If it comforted you at a time when you needed the most, then why wouldn't it stay some sort of comfort?
And she's talking along with the Banjo, biscuits. B is for biscuits. And E.T. comes up from behind the TV and just starts saying, B. The first time he's spoken. And she's like, oh, wow. But the mother gets a phone call from the school. Your son is drunk at school. And she's like, my son? Okay, Gertie, you be good for 10 minutes.
You're 5. What the fuck?
The 80s were insane.
Next door? I don't understand. I was like, all right, I was on your side, ma'am. What the fuck?
I think that was just the time. You just left the kids at home. She's going to be back in 10 minutes. It's fine.
You have a drunk son at school. You think that interaction? You think it's going to be 10
minutes? You think that's a predictable amount of time by meeting with school officials?
You think this is a predictable thing you've never been through before? So much that you even ask, my Elliot? And you're like, no, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Crazy. But Elliot gets back. He finds E.T. E.T.'s in Gertie's room. She's dressed him up. Elliot isn't happy about that. But then E.T. says, Elliot. And starts talking a lot. And this is where we finally get E.T. phone home. So beautiful, so sad.
It was so sad.
We're also we keep cutting to government agents. They're getting closer and closer to the home.
Those keys are jingling.
And
their method of figuring out who's got ET is that they just drive slowly in front of each house and just listen to a slice of conversation. Very convenient that there's only 1 and 2 people having a conversation per home, or else it'd be a big fucking jumble.
It's a very precise microphone. But yeah, I mean, good knowing that the government's always listening to you and in ways you didn't know possible, but they do. They're listening to this conversation right now somehow.
We're recording it and putting it out live. Or,
That was the joke.
Oh, I get it. You're right. So Elliot feels his sadness and knows that E.T. does need to phone home. It's the right thing to do. So luckily this is right as Halloween is happening. So they devise a plan to get them out there into the forest with the contraption that E.T. has made in the closet. Out of the speak and say, or in a very sharp axe, a saw blade,
and
then
record
just some random shit. It's the whole thing, and an umbrella upside down with aluminum foil in it to make a fucking satellite. Daddy T smart. So they pretend he's Gertie and dress him up as a ghost, and one of them's a hobo or something.
Well, first the mom's like, you're not going out as a terrorist.
But who's the terrorist? Like, is it a Unabomber? I don't understand.
I don't know. Is he Carlos the Jackal? Who was he dressed up? Release the terrorist cut, because when we see him, he's dressed as a hobo.
And why do hobos have a knife through their head? Was that a remnant of the
I think
terrorism?
So, yes.
Okay, he's like, fine, but I'm keeping the fucking hat.
I like that the mom is dressed up. She's so excited to see her kids in costume. She takes all of their pictures and then they just leave without her.
Right. Well, because she's got to stay there and answer the door for the candy. That's why everything's all right. But
it's weird. A little sad. Like, they're doing it because they have their plan to sneak ET into the forest. But their mom, who's super into Halloween and her kids, they're like, all right, goodbye, mom. And then she just doesn't see them again the rest of the night.
They're supposed to be home an hour after dark. So they get out to the bald spot of the forest.
Wait, Laci, you're missing something so important.
Oh, right. The iconic scene, right? Where they fly through the air?
No, yes. But even before that, who do they meet on the street? Yoda. There's a kid dressed up as Yoda, and John Williams in the score plays a little sting from Yoda's Force theme, but in the E.T. style. That's all. I'm impressed with this movie. Would have been made like 1 year after Empire Strikes Back. It's impressive that they knew Yoda was a big deal because, of course, Yoda was not in the original Star Wars. You would think they'd choose a character from the movie that at that point is 5 years old.
But Yoda looks the most like Yoda's the most down on the kid level.
That's true.
So it has to be a kid costume. All right, so they're pedaling like a motherfucker to get to the forest, and immediately E.T. shows off that, don't worry, I can take it from here, Elliot. And they do the iconic ride through the sky, through the moon shot.
But where's the cape?
There's no cape.
On the poster, he has a cape, and in the emblem
I've
logos.
never noticed that.
And Spielberg made a big deal. Got to add a cape digitally.
I thought it was just a blanket coming off of E.T. All right. No cape. And then he goes and sets up his machine, and I guess E.T.'s hoping it'll work faster than they don't know how fast or how far away their ship is. So they set it up, and they're there for a very long time, much longer than they were supposed to be there, and they actually fall asleep there. And the next scene you see is the mom filing a fucking police report because her kid is missing. Jesus Christ, can you imagine? And then he just shows up. He shows up while the police officer's still there, and Elliot!
And he asks his brother, did he come home? You gotta find him, Mike. You gotta.
Oh, right. I totally forgot that E.T. wandered off. Duh. And God, he's a crusty bitch when he does finally fucking find him. We don't understand why he walked off. Why would he leave Elliot? I don't know, but he does.
I think there's some hint, like there's like the some string or something is loose, so he had to go get something to fix. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he doesn't have the best feet for Earth. His torso is just not made for this planet.
No. He probably tripped and fell into the river and couldn't get out.
Oh, it's sad. Look at his little body in the river too. It's so fucking sad. So the brother somehow gets him in the bike and brings him home and then puts him in the bathroom. And this is when they decide they need to show the mom, but they don't know what to do. E.T.'s dying, and they just need to get him back on his ship. So it's time to bring in mom, because I don't know how we're going to lie to her this time, especially after there's been a missing person report filed. Mm-hmm. She's had it. And the mom comes in, and it does the most mom thing ever, which is just like, holy shit, what the fuck is that? Let me get my kids away from him. And Elliot is just distraught. And this begins the cycle of him pleading with all of his acting ability for them to listen to him. I'm trying to save him. Don't take me away from him. You're making him die. Fuck.
Yeah, he knows inherently that E.T. needs him to be nearby.
And to be able to communicate with him, right? It's like someone taking us away from needs us the most. Like, you're the interpreter, and I've been an interpreter for many a person, and if someone took me away right when my kid needed me to explain how they are feeling, you just immediately feel the fear that the person not able to communicate must be feeling.
Yeah,
it's horrible. And then I didn't even fucking think of that connection for some reason. So yeah, now that's the beginning of the end for me here. From here on out, trauma.
I do like when they show the mom the alien. The mom at first laughs and says, "That's great." She doesn't know what she's looking at. She's just like, this looks good.
You made a thing. You made a goblin.
And then very quickly turns to horror. But then the scariest thing of all time when I was a kid, the spacemen invade the house.
Which is just, they're in full fucking space suits. I'm sure it's just for effect. And it's probably like, this is Elliot's memory of what happened. And in his head, there were literal spacemen coming to take this alien away. When in actuality, I'm sure it was just a hazmat suit, which is something more like what we see later. And so like, it's the people he trusts that are now in these hazmat suits, because now there's faces. But before they're this faceless, scary, horrible thing. So they need full helmets, full fucking like what he would have seen on the moon landing, because he's got no like frame of reference beyond that. It's identical. The packs and everything.
Yeah.
It is the moon landing gear, which would be Lee's only reference for astronaut. And I did not remember there being like an ally kind of in the mix. Or at least he seems to genuinely care, this adult who's with the keys, who's been looking for him. But he says how much he cares, and then he does. Okay. Anyway, and sorry. They are totally concerned that this is a contaminated something. We're not built to defend against whatever diseases he might have. And clearly this kid is sick, the kid that has been the most close to him this whole time. So they need to get him quarantined, but God damn it, do they not have equipment? I did not have a memory in my head of the place where he ends up being in the facility is like directly right outside or even inside the house
It's
at some
in the
point.
house.
Yeah, it's in the house. I mean, that cool tube that they fucking put on the walkway and the guy gets like sprayed and then he walks up the like, this is good stuff. We need these. But they're being very safe until E.T. passes away, and then everyone takes off their gloves, their hats.
Very quickly, they're like, wow,
it's fine.
the danger has passed.
We just thought he had toxic spit or cum, but he's dead, so now we can just, yeah.
These people don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing.
Then they're treating him like he's an earth animal or whatever
And you
with
said
all
they're
their
like-
medical readings and stuff.
They're with like the forest. They're like, what?
Oh, I was joking,
Oh,
but-
I was gonna say, well, they do a
No,
lot of
I
surgery
think they're
in the forest?
supposed to be from NASA.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know you were joking.
And the read on why they'd be wearing spacesuits, if the suggestion is not that this is Elliot's memory, but they were actually wearing spacesuits, then it'd be like, because they don't know what they're doing. They just taking what's available. And I guess NASA has a ton of extra spacesuits.
Okay, but then they all have hazmat suits after that. But yeah, I guess they needed the extra
I certainly
protection.
like your idea better.
Good. And now this is the part that I just don't really want to relive. It's, they've got them both. Mike reveals that the way they've been communicating is that him and Elliot are connected and that he can feel his feelings. So they're like, well, Elliot's sick and so is E.T. Let's lay them next to each other. We need to be helping both of them anyway. And that's how they figure out, oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, they are in alignment here. But they're just close enough for Elliot to see and hear everything, but not close enough for them to touch. And it's just like, make him levitate, Elliot. I mean, E.T., bring him to you. Have a hug.
I always forget that Peter Coyote says to Elliot, I saw him too when I was 10 years old. He came to me when I was 10 years old.
Oh.
And I don't know if this means this literal same alien or he too saw an alien. And so he's dedicated his whole life to being prepared for when the aliens come back. I always forget about that.
I have to.
Yeah.
He's flatlining. They're pumping him full of all this fucking medicine that doesn't make sense for his body.
Well, there's the moment when like Elliot turns over and looks at E.T. and says, I'll be right here, stay. And then E.T. looks at him and then turns over and then appears to like sever the connection between them because then Elliot starts to heal and that's when E.T. flatlines. And
I don't like that.
Well, but then Keys, Peter Coyote lets Elliot spend some time with E.T.'s corpse. I'll give you some time alone.
Forcing him out, kicking and screaming, like just let him go to his side right now. It is so fucking frustrating. But okay, well now he's totally dead and we can do nothing about it. You want to feel his? He's been put in a fucking ice box. You want him now? We can't even get a good hug that way. Was he supposed to get in the fucking freezer with him? He's already in a bag. That's disgusting. Mm-hmm. That's not the way you want to see Grandma. Why would this be the way that he wants to fucking see? Oh, well, we've already saran wrapped Grandma.
Gotta do something.
Would you like to come
Gotta
say
let
goodbye?
him have something. I mean, there's no manual for how to handle this.
Fine.
And
whole life to prepare. But
and it wasn't in any of the manuals that a kid would be in love with one of the aliens, and you
except
have to
for
deal
that
with
he
the
himself
kid.
was in love with
That's
that
true.
alien.
They never took this guy seriously.
You saying Elliot's going to grow up 30 years from now and have the same fucking job, the same connection?
I think so. Yeah. But Elliot goes to see E.T. and then he sees the flowers alive again. He realizes, wait a minute, E.T. must be alive. And he unzips him and E.T.'s a damn chatterbox. And I guess what made him come back to life? Don't know. I like how little this movie explains. It's all about you feeling it.
The way I read it was that we wanted them to leave him alone. And he wanted, so he just played dead.
Oh, no. And I think what the movie's suggesting is like the aliens, his people are coming and somehow you telepathically.
That's right. They're getting closer. He's getting better.
And it reactivated him.
Yeah.
Now he's coming back online.
I did read it that way whenever we were watching the movie.
I love that. But Elliot has to pretend that E.T.'s still dead. So Henry Thomas, the actor, who has been great at fake crying,
just this
now has to do actual fake crying. And he does. The astronauts are like, oh, okay, better leave this kid alone.
It's like the same as like a little girl telling an older man that she's on her period. All they just do that. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, you need stuff. I mean, I'm going to go. I'll leave you to it.
Take as much time as you need, little miss. So, they have a plan. They hatch a plan. Get E.T. out of here in the van that they put him in. Mike hijacks it, drives the van.
I love this detail. I've never driven forward because you see in the very confusing shot where the mom is making sure that Elliot is sick, they are cutting in between someone in a fucking station wagon backing out of the driveway, and him and his mom have like the same haircut, Mike and the mom. So I'm like, wait, you've already gone. Why are you back, bitch? Why do you have a blanket? But so it takes a couple shots before we're like, oh, Mike is just doing a thing teenagers do.
Yeah.
He is allowed to to back the car out of the driveway. That's all the driving his mom will let him do. She's too stressed out for any other thing. I just love that because it's like that is exactly the first thing you'd get to do.
My dad would occasionally ask me if I could move his pickup truck from like one part of the driveway to another. I'd be like, hell yeah! Run outside to do it. Yeah, he drives the van that has E.T. in it, and he tells his friends to meet them with their bikes on the playground, and they all take off in their bikes as really reckless cops give chase and try to shoot them dead with guns.
Yes, this is a very action-packed bike scene. I would have been completely spent by the time I got at the end of the block, but now there's dunes. Now there's BMXing to do.
I like that. I like when they're telling their friends the plan. Like, hey, this is our alien friend. You got to help us. We got to run away on our bikes. And the friend Greg says, can you just beam up? And Elliot says, this is reality, Greg. Right. So they all take off on their bikes, and right as the agents with their guns are about to close in on them, E.T. has all of their bikes take off into the sky.
But not after the high power, the fast paced, fucking dangerous as shit multi-car chase through like a neighborhood development or something. It's not like a ghost town, but it's, it's just all these different.
E.T. knew that they could handle it up until then. Now he knows
guns. He's like, walkie-talkies, gotta go.
It's getting real. Now we take off, and the audiences around the world cheered and cummed as this happened.
Oh God!
As these kids take off in their bikes, they get to the forest. It's nighttime now. The ship arrives. E.T. has a tearful goodbye with Mike and Gertie. To Gertie, he says, "Be good." To Mike, he says, "Thank you." And then E.T. says to Elliot, "Come," and Elliot says, "Stay." And then ouch, my heart hurts, but. Right. I'll be right here, and his finger glows. See, this is about real love. Never once does Elliot asks him to stay earlier in the movie, but it's always been about I need to help you get back to your people, because that's what you do when you love somebody. Well, even if it means that you lose them, you give them what they need.
Well, and it's shows you what real empathy is supposed to look like. Now, they just happen to have a actual physical thing happening that gives them this, pure empathy, but this is what real love looks like. If you're doing it right, you are letting go when you need to.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'll be right here is so powerful. Like we will never see each other again, but
you'll not ever lose what we had here. Yes. I will be right.
And that will always be with both of us.
Right.
And that's real love. And this is a case where having a sequel to this movie would actually have diminished the power of this.
Oh yes, how could they?
I'm usually like if a sequel sucks, it doesn't matter. You still have the original movie. But if they saw each other again in a sequel, because this is one of the huge movies that never got a sequel, despite people saying, "Give us a sequel."
Yeah, it would have been total shit.
That would have diminished how powerful this moment is. Yeah. I love that the last shot of the movie is just Henry Thomas's face. It's the last shot and then just cut to credits.
Right. It's not like smash cut to him like a few days later and he's having dinner. It's the dinner scene or something, the same table. You could have done it, wrapped it around to show like, look, life went on. He's okay.
Right. And I think they did shoot that and then removed it from the cut. But even more, I literally just having his face be the last thing you see rather than the spaceship taking off.
Yeah, right.
To show like this is about people. This movie's about people. It's not actually about.
It's actually about Steven Spielberg. Aliens. So he's just showing his 10-year-old face. He's showing his.
Right. I'm a person. Yeah.
No, me.
Well,
That's what he's doing. Yeah, but no, it's a powerful shot. Yes, Matt. Yes, Matt.
Thank you.
Yes, Matt. Hazmat. There is a fucking cape. I think I just always thought they both had blankets on.
Or that it's his ample butt.
Oh, or that's Howard the Duck. It's in that shape. It's clearly a tail feather.
You're right. It's his diaper.
It's a duck egg. Ew. Yeah. Okay. What are your final 5 stars.
You go.
I'll read my letterbox review.
Okay.
That's the easier thing to do. Vamp while I'm pulling it up, you piece of shit. Okay, you've done great. What a good inhale. All right, here I am. I gave it 4.5 stars. Did I? I was feeling good. All right, so I say, I know, I'm a piece of shit for not giving this masterpiece a 5-star rating, but any family film that makes me feel this sad for the already sad kid gets dinged 0.5 star. Amazing cast, amazing story, amazing puppet. As I always say, the bigger the eyes on the creature, the bigger the connection. And E.T. could not possibly have bigger eyes.
She's always saying that.
I've said it multiple times on this podcast.
Every night at dinner when we eat eyeball stew. This is insane. You're dinging it for making you care too much about the person.
You know what's insane? You fucking piloting the ship that is my review process. I care about rewatchability. You can't take that away from me. I just do. So yes. No, that's not why I dinged it. I dinged it because I just did. I just did.
She just did.
I give it 4. I don't have to have your fucking opinions, man.
I know you don't. I'm impressed that you gave it that many stars.
Well, then what the fuck?
Oh, I feel like it's weird to say
They made a very
it's a problem that this movie makes me feel too strongly about it.
But I like Maestro. Maestro made me cry for 20 minutes. Still gave it 5 stars. So maybe I'm not like exactly being able to articulate what it is, but I wouldn't say this movie's as good as other things I give 5 stars to. And I don't know what I think I need to feel a certain way as I leave, and that way can be sad. But for some reason, this feels 1/2 star off.
Not good
Why
enough.
are you
sad.
making it? 4.5 stars is a fucking great
I
goddamn rating.
know,
Eat my
love.
goddamn dog shit. I'm gonna get some dog shit for you to eat.
I'm just trying to understand.
I don't want you to understand. I just
I
want
know
you to
you don't.
accept me.
I do accept you. I do. And I give this movie 5 stars.
What?
I think it's great. I think it's perfect. No notes. Trying to what is the biggest criticism you could what could you say could make this movie better? I don't
have that.
Maybe just lose the shot of the kids pulling their masks down as we're about to do some badass kid stuff. That's like the only second of the movie I don't like. But yeah, one of the best family movies ever made. One of Steven Spielberg's very best. Great family film. Makes me cry, but in a good way, and feel like the whole point of being alive is to be connected to other people. That's the only thing that actually matters.
And a lesser movie would have a dad cameo, maybe at the end when things are like getting real crazy and like maybe mom needs some support. I like that mom handles this all the way through.
You're right.
And that she's a rock for Elliot at the end where she needs to be. She lets Elliot go do what he's got to do.
Yep.
She trusts him to go be as close to him as he needs to be, close to the ship as he needs to be. In that moment, Elliot is completely he's been through enough. And I trust you.
She holds back. She doesn't run up to her kids. Yeah.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah. They don't then go rejoin her right there.
Right. Because she's like, they've got this.
Yeah.
I pulled them away from him before, and look what happened.
Good mom. Good momming.
She's a good mom. I do think she's a good mom. She's a good mom.
What's next for the Summer of Spielberg? It continues on in our next episode, which is about Jurassic Park. Ever heard of it? Jurassic Park. As I've said many times on the show, I think it's the movie I've seen the most in the world is Jurassic Park, because it was basically the only like a grown-up movie VHS I owned for a long time. But yeah, and
It's the only Jurassic Park soundbite I have on my soundbite.
that is, of course, from Jurassic Park 3. That is the stepdad who gets his stepson
does get a
stranded
cameo.
on Isla Sorna when they're parasailing. But we're not talking about that next week. We're talking about the original Jurassic Park with our friends AJ and Kristie from the In Love with Horror podcast. This podcast might be 5 hours long. We'll see.
We've got a lot of passion
A lot of
here.
stuff to say about Jurassic Park.
Oh, God.
But yeah. Anything else? Well, I'll tell you.
What the fuck was that?
Everybody, if you're listening to the show on audio, thank you. That's the best way to support us.
RSS feed audio, particularly. Spotify can eat a dick. But if that's all you got,
then do it.
Then do it. Do it,
it's
man.
Fine.
Do it.
But we produce full video episodes on YouTube. It's the same product on both. You just see some visuals along with our voices.
Boy, are there visuals. Take some acid. Look at this.
Go on a fucking trip, man. And the other way you can support us is to follow us on social media and engage with us, comment and all that stuff. Interact with us. We are on Twitter at LoadBearingPod. I'm on Twitter at MattStokes9. The show is on TikTok at Load.BearingBeams.
Which is me.
Which
That
is
me.
Laci. My TikTok account is MattStokes9, and you can follow
He's interactive now. Finally, I've gotten him in.
on Instagram at LoadBearingBeams. Laci and I are both on Letterboxd. I'm at MattStokes9. Laci is at
Load-bearing Laci.
And my band Roll Out 9 does the music for Load Bearing Beams, including the Summer of Spielberg theme song. Thanks again to
Wade,
TJ Barons and Wade Female and to Laci Roth.
Oh, you're welcome.
For our wonderful theme song that we'll have for the rest of the summer.
Yay.
Richard Dreyfuss Mashed Potatoes. E.T. would like a Reese's Piece. Roll Out 9's music is also on Spotify. Check it out.
All right. Okay. I love you. Goodbye.
3, 4. Everybody, load-bearing beams, load-bearing beams. Load-bearing beams, load-bearing beams. Load-bearing beams, load-bearing beams. Spider-Man. Load-bearing beams, load-bearing beams. Load-bearing. Good!